Good evening and welcome to the December meeting of the Parks and Recreation Committee. I'm Barbara Zoller-Gringer, the chair, and welcome. This meeting is being recorded and in accordance with the New York State Open Meetings Law. It's the practice of Community Board 2 to conduct remote meetings with all committee members, cameras on, and I would ask you to do that, our members. And we encourage others to leave their cameras on, especially if you're speaking. And we do ask you to mute your microphone to avoid things like that if you're not speaking. Please put your questions in the chat. We'll also have time during the meeting for questions. And we are always committed to providing access for all our neighbors, regardless of physical ability or limitation. If you or someone you know requires an accommodation, full participation, please contact the district office before the meeting, if possible. I'm now going to ask everyone on the committee to introduce themselves. Thomas, do you want to start? And I want to thank you for taking our minutes. I couldn't be more appreciative of you for doing that. So thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. My name is Thomas Suji. I am the secretary of this committee, and I'll be taking notes today.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Jennifer Melvey, member of the committee.
Doug?
Doug Bettner. How are you, everybody? Good evening.
Carolyn?
Carolyn Hubbard, Commandant Weary. Good evening. I'm a member of the board and a member of this committee.
Candace?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Candace Harrison.
Okay, Melinda, if you're able to, please turn on your camera.
No, I'm not, but hi, everyone. My name is Melinda Rasco. I'm a member of the board and the committee. Thank you.
Richard.
Yeah, hi, everyone. I'm Richard Morrow. I'm a community board Park and Recreation Committee member.
Thank you. Did I miss anybody? Thank you. I just want to make one change to the agenda. I'd like to move up the chair's report to after the adoption of the minutes. I'm not only chairing this meeting this evening, but I am caretaking my husband post-op. And so I might have to leave for a couple of minutes at any time. And I just want to make sure to give you my chair's report. If I do have to leave for a couple of minutes, Taya, take over the meeting. So with that change, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Richard, thank you. Carolyn, any opposition? All right, thank you. Then we move to minutes from November. Again, Thomas, I thought you did a terrific job. Does anybody have any edits for the minutes? Okay, I have a couple. I apologize for not getting them back sooner. On page 2, fifth bullet from the bottom, it says expected that DOT is expected to free up the space and give it back to the Parks Department in mid-2023. I believe it's toward the end of 2023. I think they talked about December. And then in the next to last bullet on that page, it says, he also reiterated that Parks does not own the bridge. I think it's more that Parks does not exercise jurisdiction over the bridge. And then finally, just something very minor, the first bullet on page 3, it says mention dog runs in the general board meeting. I think it should be dog runs at the general board. I don't know if anybody has any problems with those 3 edits. So what I would ask then is, with those 3 edits, can I get consensus on the minutes? Does anyone have any further questions about the minutes? Hearing none, thank you for adopting those minutes. So my chair's report is really very brief. A former member of our committee, Suzanne Quint, sent me an article which I wanted to forward to everyone. I just didn't get a chance to do that. But it concerns the park's capital budget process. And I think the members of this committee have heard me say more than once that I get frustrated at how long capital projects takes for parks. It's typically 3 years. And I think other people have concerns, as do I, about the price tag on a lot of these capital projects. And it seems that other places are able to do things at a lower cost. So there is a movement afoot, and I have the article in front of me now, but to try to change the capital budget process for parks. So I will send you that article, and bears watching to see what happens on that. I think it would be great if you saw a change in that process. And then I just wanted to thank Candace Harrison, who's been a member of this committee for a number of years, and is the only person I have ever seen take minutes on a phone and do it phenomenally. I mean, I've never seen anyone take minutes, but not only does she do it, but she does it phenomenally. And she's been a great member of the committee. She has told us that she's stepping down from the committee with this meeting, but she's assured me that she will be following us and that from time to time she will attend the meeting. So Candace, thank you. So now we move on. We have 3 presentations tonight, and I'm going to ask all of our presenters if they can to limit their presentations to 7 or 8 minutes.
Say I'm at the meeting on phone.
Thank you, Andrew. As I say, we have 3 presentations tonight, and I respectfully ask our presenters if they could keep within the 7 or 8 minutes, and then we'll have questions. I'm sure there'll be questions. And before we start, as you know, we have a presentation from the Urban Park Rangers, something about the Bridge Plaza Community Garden redesign, and about Trinity Park renovation proposal. So is there any member of the public here who has some comment about these items? All right, I'm seeing one screen. If you could raise your Juan Salazar, you have a comment. Go ahead, please. Which item did you want to talk about?
I don't have a comment yet, but I'll have a comment about 2 of them. Given
Well,
the opportunity.
this is your opportunity if you want to make a comment.
Yeah, but I can't comment on something that has not been presented. How can I comment on something?
Mr. Salazar, that's fine. We understand that this is a confusing technicality that we have to do. This is actually a period for any members of the public to comment on the agenda. There will also be time to comment on the specific items following presentation. But does anyone have any objections to the presented agenda?
All right, thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to our first presentation. Some of you may not know that we have Urban Park Rangers. I only learned that a couple of years ago myself. They were founded in 1979, and they are viewed as ambassadors for parks. And we have Urban Park Ranger Sergeant Judith Volosky here to give us a lot more details and hopefully tell us where in District Community Board 2 we could find these rangers so we could go out and see them. I'm sorry, Thomas, did you have a question? Your hand is up?
No, it shouldn't be.
Okay, thanks. All right, Judith.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, hello, I'm all set now. I am Sergeant Judith Voloski. I'm one of the 2 sergeants for the Brooklyn Park Rangers, and there are about 16 of us in Brooklyn. We're shared between Marine Park, Fort Greene Park, Prospect Park, where we report to every day, but we serve the entire borough of Brooklyn. So I'm going to set my timer for 7 minutes, and I will gladly take some questions at the end if you have any about us. Let me get my timer set here. Start. Okay. I'll just go kind of over what the Rangers do in general, and then I'll zero in a little bit more on things that we're doing in Community Board 2. So this is our mission statement. Let me move this out of the way. To promote stewardship for New York City parks by connecting New Yorkers to the natural world through environmental education, outdoor adventure, wildlife management, and active conservation. So we're a little bit different than the park enforcement, which you see in the parks, although we are peace officers for New York City. So we go to an academy with the enforcement, but our focus mostly is on education and connecting the public with the parks. So these are the types of programs we do. I'll whiz through these a little bit, but just so you know, the opportunities for working with us would be number 1, every Saturday and Sunday, we lead weekend adventures in all 5 boroughs, and those are scheduled free nature programs for the general public. So hiking, fishing, bird watching, all kinds of, outdoor activity. They're generally like 60 to 90 minute programs on Saturdays and Sundays, and you can always find them on the park's website. And then we're always out on patrol in the park too. So we do pop-up adventures, which are just more spontaneous. If we see a hawk nesting in a tree or fall foliage that we want to talk to people about, we can do a little program just on the fly while we're out in the park. The Natural Close Classroom, those are our school programs. So schools can come to the parks, and we do an hour to 90-minute walk with kids learning about different topics, geology, history, ecology, things like that. That's actually one of our fee-based programs. We did have a variance during COVID, but we do charge a small fee for those programs to schools. And we have we do have a grant this year to give away some free programs. And then we have after school program for high school kids. It's called Ranger Conservation Corps. So high school students can, this semester, we just finished the fall program, was run in Marine Park. Although we have done them in Fort Greene, and we will again. And that is an 8-week program where high school students can earn community service hours. And again, that's a free program. And then in the summer, camp groups can book us for outdoor adventures, which are all day long programs. And that's more activity based, like canoeing, learning outdoor skills, things like that. And that is also a fee-based program that camp groups can arrange with us. This, again, like I said, we do enforcement. We are special patrolmen for the state of New York and peace officers under New York State, New York City. And we do have the power to write summonses, arrest, things like that. We're trained for that, but we mostly do enforcement through education. So our counterpart, the park enforcement, I would say they focus more on the summons writing part of enforcement, and we mostly are educating people about the rules and a sense of how it affects the environment, anything that they might be doing wrong. And then animal conditions are another part of our role for New York City. We do, you know, wildlife rescues of injured wildlife. We do deal with domestics to chicken rescues or dog, abandoned dog, things like that. So if you did see any kind of animal condition in a park, you can always call 311 and that will route to us. So we'll get out and try to rescue that animal. And I'll have my information at the end, so you could even just call one of our nature centers to reach us if you did see an animal in need. And then these are some of the things I would say are highlights of your community board. Fort Greene Park Visitor Center, we have rangers there stationed there every day. That's we have a long history with working in Fort Greene Park. And I would say that's a place where we really have community rangers. Those rangers are assigned to the visitor center, so they don't really leave that park that much. And there's just a constant flow of visitors coming into the center. And we have a really cool primitive fort, the readout, the Fort Greene readout. I don't know if you all are familiar with the setup there, where we do we can have fires, and we do that when people are sledding in the park, and that's a really fun activity. And then the monument, the Prison Ship Martyrs Monument, is obviously a very wonderful historical landmark in that park that we do program around the history, the Revolutionary War history of that park. Commodore Barry would be a park I would say we're in a lot more in the summer when the pool is open. We're down there interacting with the public as they're going to and from the swimming pool there. Cadman Plaza Park, it has Juneteenth Grove. Oh, okay, there's my timer, so I'm almost done.
You can take a couple more minutes.
Okay, thank you. That is a great, we do a wonderful abolitionist history program on Juneteenth, actually, every summer. And we have, during Black History Month, we have done this program as well. So that's a pretty interesting program where it's actually a whole walk through Brooklyn Heights, going to Plymouth Church, you know, just kind of talking about the emancipation timeline of Brooklyn, where that Brooklyn fits into that history. And then Brooklyn Bridge Park. I mean, Brooklyn Bridge Park and Fort Greene Park obviously have the Conservancy partners that are so great and supportive, and Brooklyn Bridge Park gets a lot of money and attention, but we do partner on a lot of their events, the Conservancy's events, and you know, that's wonderful too. And then these parks we can go there to do some enforcement or bird rescues, any kind of animal rescues as well. And then I just wanted to list these programs. Most of these you can just find on the park's website. A couple of Fort Greene things or more in-house when you're just visiting there. Like we do a Meet the Ranger every Friday at 3 o'clock there. If you were interested on seeing the inside of the monument and learning more about that history, this coming Saturday, we're going to be having a monument tour. Yeah, and then we do, I would say, a lot of family-based programs in Fort Greene, especially. We'll do some kid programs coming up for the week of school break coming up. But yeah, that's my information. Or you can always, like I said, call 311 or the Salt Marsh Nature Center or or go to the park's website to find us.
Judith, that was wonderful.
Okay.
So the parks you were telling us about, those are the parks you focus on?
I would say those were the parks in the community board that
Right.
you would find us. We get invited to events like outside of the park sometimes, but we often have to say no because we have to serve all the parks of Brooklyn. So we really want, if you want to do something with us, we want you to come to a park, or call us to a park if you're having an event and you want us to table it, we can do that in all the parks. But Marine Park, Prospect Park, and Fort Greene Park are like our main hubs, since we have rangers stationed there every day.
Thank you for that. We have committee members who have questions.
Okay, great.
Candace?
Hi, thank you for your presentation, Judith. I just have a quick question. Can you talk a little bit about the park rangers, like if you have a partnership with the New York City Department of Education? Because I noticed that in your first slide, you mentioned that there were programs like after school programs and programs for high school students. So how do you all work with the Department of Education to let students know about these programs? And do you have like internships for students as well, like over the summer?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have internships. We just haven't been able to make that work so well. But the after school, the Ranger Conservation Corps is on our website, and then we do outreach depending on the we do outreach with as many high schools as we can to get kids to show up to those programs. But we do direct outreach. I don't know if we have, we'll contact guidance counselors, science teachers at the schools. Some of the big ones, Brooklyn Tech, of course, is a popular one for us to get kids from. But yeah, we had a nice variety of kids that applied to that program this year.
Thank you.
Any other committee members who have questions? Or any community board members with questions? I'm not sure if we have any. Okay. Are there any members of the public who have questions? I don't see any questions.
Do you have a question?
Could I ask something?
Oh, sure, Richard, go ahead.
Barbara and I were talking earlier about the horseback riding. Do you still do the horses in the park?
So we have a mounted division who is, they're on horses in different boroughs. I think they're going to be bringing horses to Brooklyn again for mounted park enforcement. But yeah, there are horse programs where like Gallop, different programs in Prospect Park. I know there's an adaptive riding program that I see right in front of our command at the Bowling Green Cottage in the parade ground every week. But yeah, the mounted is another, they're not part of my division.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other questions at the moment. So Judith, I really appreciate you giving us this introduction. And I hope now when everybody goes to these parks, they look around for the rangers and talk to them. And clearly it's easy to find a ranger in Fort Greene Park from what you say. So,
for sure, yeah, thank you, yeah.
So thank you.
Pleasure.
We're going on to our next presentation, which is, and Judith, you're welcome to stay. If you need to leave, we understand. So we're going to hear from the Bridge Plaza Community Garden, an update on the redesign. I think we were here not that long ago, so it's good to hear what you, the update. Now, are you going to be wanting a letter of support from this from the community board tonight?
It would be helpful, but it's not absolutely necessary.
Well, in that case, we'll do our best to consider issuing a letter of support. So we have Gary Dearborn, we just heard from the Chief of Capital, Charlie Reynoso, the Deputy Director of Engagement, and Corey, I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name. Is it Hassan?
Yes, Hassan.
Okay, great. Government Affairs Manager. So we're going to turn this over to you now. Thank you.
Should I share a screen?
Sure.
Okay, can you all see that now?
Looks great.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. Okay. We were here, refresh my memory, I think early summer, to let people know that a New York restoration project had secured city funding to renovate the garden. So what we'd like to do is report back to you on our community engagement process and the preliminary design and the next steps. So you all know Bridge Plaza Gardens, located downtown, right off of just off Flatbush, but the intersection of Bridge and Concord. This image is of the location, but the far right map shows a schematic of the existing garden. Just to kind of step back in history a little bit, this is a very old community garden. It was founded on or about 1975. New York Restoration acquired the property in the early 2000s from the city when the city was attempting to auction them off for development. The space was renovated with the current configuration probably over 20 years ago with the work of volunteers, some of which you hear tonight, as well as students from Pratt and professor from Pratt. So in 2017, NYRP applied to City Council and Borough President funding to seek to renovate the garden. In the 5 years since then, I've been working with basically EDC to secure that funding agreement, which we finally have in hand. It's been a long process. So we're at a point now where we have city funding and private matching funds to renovate the garden. And that was the context that we started our conversation with garden members and with the community board. This is just some kind of a series of photographs from our community meetings. We've had 5 or 6, but the substantive one was the first one to have an open house meeting where we talk about the space, the history of the space, what people like about it now, goals that NYRP has for the renovation. We try to synthesize that information and come up with 2 different design alternatives that try to serve the program, but with a different geometry, and I'll show you more detailed slides of that. And then we have a final meeting where we try to take all the input and synthesize that into one singular design. So I'd say the general goals for the project were to renovate it, to give it a new life for the next 20 to 25 years. But in doing that, we want to preserve essentially the contemplative kind of relaxing nature of the garden. It's primarily a Vesposket park. It's not being used, and never really has been used for kind of urban gardening per se and food production. However, within that, there's a need to broaden our membership in the garden, provide have more key holders that are responsible for the garden to help carry some of that burden that longtime members have been providing for many, many years. NYRP has seen success in the past, and we've had some requests from community members that want to join the garden to have a limited number of gardening beds, not a significant amount, but a limited amount to help activate the space and bring in new membership. So that's one thing we're introducing. Another big goal is really to practice sustainable methods as much as possible to manage the stormwater, reuse many of the salvage materials that came to form the garden. That's stone and brick. materials like that, as well as to preserve, you know, the kind of rich horticulture of the site, trees, shrubs, ground covers, perennials that make it such a beautiful space. Another big goal of the project was to rebuild what once was a large stormwater management tank, a water tank essentially, that over the years had become a bit of a fish pond that has goldfish in it that have thrived and survived. There was a lot of debate and dialogue about how to do that and what to do. What we've decided is that we can sustain having a fish pond in the garden. That's a bit unique for us, but we're going to rebuild it so that the shape of the fountain and its siting is not only code compliant but also fits within the harmoniously with the design of the garden at a more manageable scale, so that we can maintain it with the recirculating pumps and an overflow such that, you know, we don't have an issue where it might flood a neighbor. And we would introduce fish and work with the garden members to, you know, make sure that they thrive. A lot of people expressed the desire to, you know, if we could, to have a garden with a fish pond. So those were the broad goals. Like I said, we synthesized that into two different designs. This is design alternate A, which uses a brick paving pattern, plan on the left, kind of sketch model on the right, using a series of serpentine walls, preserving the existing trees. This particular design had a large storage shed and a more architectural, smaller water feature. This water feature wasn't large enough to hold fish. That came later. And then the gathering area in the back and the upper right-hand side. The second design we had more of a bit of an architectural statement, so that when you walk into the garden, there was a pergola over you, and then gardening beds to the left, and a shed to the right, and then a water feature tucked way in the back of the garden. Had some similarities where we used seat walls and bluestone and herringbone pattern with brick. Again, the reference back to the existing garden. There was pros and cons with both of these schemes. Neither one of them were completely what was preferred on the site. What we did was take that design and try to synthesize the best of all worlds to come up with a final design, which is this one, which we presented and discussed with two garden members in November, where we have two arcing stone walls that are seat walls. As you walk into the garden, on the left is a series of terraced garden beds that are notched into the landscape, so they're not like freestanding objects, they're integrated into the landscape. And what we did is made a commitment: if people don't step up and adopt these as gardening beds, NYRP would convert them into durable plantings with perennials and herbs, flowers, so that they, it was an attractive space when you come into it. You weren't looking at a weedy, empty, gardening bed that was unattractive. As you walk into the right, there would be stepping stone paths to walk through the landscape and have more seating. As you go further into the garden, to the left, up on a raised area, we'd have a hexagonal bench, which basically is the existing bench that's there now, around a large cherry tree. And in the center, as you move towards the back, where the path kind of splits open and you have a bit of a patio, we would have a new water feature that would be engineered and designed to sustain fish, again, with a recirculating pump. Something to make sure the ice doesn't freeze in the winter, an overflow and a water feed. And we'd introduce and expand planters along the edge of the fence along the outside, really to try and make the garden feel bigger than it is and try and buffer the noise and sound of the traffic on Flatbush. And in general, the folks we've been meeting with were supportive of this design. So our next step would be to take this and turn it into, more construction drawings, get bids, bring it into construction. The time frame for that would be after the end of the next gardening season. We just don't have enough time to do all that before the garden reopens formally in the beginning of April. So our goal, our anticipated date of construction would be essentially October of 2023. We do the work through the fall, excuse me, the early spring of 24, and then we'd reopen on or about April of 2024. So the current garden will stay as it is, you know, for this coming season 23. After that's ended, then we would go into construction. So I think that covers most of what I wanted to talk about. Charlie, did I miss anything, or is there anything you want to add?
No, I think you touched on everything. Like you said, we had a couple really good meetings with community members, and especially the last one where we presented this current model. A lot of support from the people that were there, and some good feedback that I think we're looking to implement in the next version of this plan.
So I'll turn it back to the chair, and we're happy to answer questions, and you know, as time allows. We don't want to take up your whole agenda.
I think this looks beautiful. I do have to step away for a couple of moments. So Taya, I'm going to turn this over to you for questions.
No problem. 1 second.
This really is your final model. So I think we would have a vote on whether or not to issue a letter of support. Again, I think it looks beautiful. And I think you did a great job combining those two designs. I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone from the committee have a question for the presenters? Committee members or board members, any questions for the presenters? Okay, moving on to community members. Juliet from Bridge Plaza Association.
Hi, when will be the next iteration of the plan? You mentioned Charlie, you mentioned incorporating some other comments or suggestions. When would that be shown to the community?
This is the last iteration of the plan.
So what Charlie was saying about implementation or whatever went on at the last minute, which unfortunately I was not able to attend, this is it.
So the next step for us is to do design development engineering drawings and to true out everything. So the big topic for us to really figure out how everything fits together, Juliet, is the water feature. So where's the pump? You know, how's the electricity work? If it's solar battery, or if we can get an agreement with the neighbor, maybe to tap into their electrical, which is something we're considering. Most of that is going to be on the more technical end. But I think what I'd like to do is advance those designs, maybe make another model, render it so that you can see the feel of it, because that you can't really get in this kind of iteration. So I'd say that what we would do is provide, through Charlie, an update, basically in a PDF, where we'd show more detail about the scale and the character of the water feature, almost as a small design exercise.
You're on mute, Juliet.
A better idea, a true landscape architectural plan that shows what plantings there are, because we have so many existing plantings and the garden looks very lush when it is in full season, and the model and the schematic that you have does not show the specific plants that we're going to try to save. Such as
that's something we generally don't provide, but we can do that as a courtesy if you're interested in that. I mean,
well, yeah, because, you know, we've been tending to this garden and plants for 20 years, and you had mentioned we would be able to save many of them. So it would be good for residents, long-term residents that have put their time into keeping up those plants to see that they will be placed somewhere in the new scheme.
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
Next, I see Juan Salazar's hand. Well, Mr. Salazar, we lost your video. Oh, there you are. Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Apologies about my comment. I have a comment about the finality, quote unquote, about this design. It's final because NYRP says it's final. There was a meeting that NYRP failed to attend. There was another meeting, then there was a third meeting. I don't know minutes of the meeting, who attended. And so this is, the finality of it is based on what? Based on Gary saying it's final. We went over this. We had lots of objections about this. The final design kind of resembles a little bit what's there, except for the pond, which was always a fish pond, was not a water collection thing, as has been stated. So I think this finality of it, this garden has been around since the 70s. And the only reason I think we're coming to the community board, by the way, I used to be on the community board for 10 years at the time that we rebuilt this garden in 2004, 2005. So it's because of the funding, I suppose, that it's before the community board too. But there is no, I don't know, and maybe Charlie can tell you, or Gary can tell you, who said this is agreed from the community that this is the final design. Charlie was handing out leaflets to tourists before the second meeting. So I have no idea. There's at least two here, and we have been heavily involved in this garden. I think there's another person here who lives half of the time in the community board. So I don't understand why. And I stated this before in the summer meeting, that this is just going to be going through the motions so that somebody can build a portfolio and say, oh, the garden, frankly, I invite all of you, each of you, to go look at it. Needs no rebuilding, needs a little renovation maybe, and maintenance. It's been there for 20 years. It's an excellent garden. So I am not happy about this finality of it, because there's no finality to it other than somebody decided, this is it. You guys take it, and that's it. I don't think it looks beautiful because what's there is beautiful. Go look at it.
Well, this is an easy question to answer. Ron, you didn't come to the meetings. You didn't come to the meeting in October when we presented the two schemes. You didn't come to the meeting in November when we presented the final scheme. You didn't participate in the other meetings. So, it's not because I say I'm talking now. You have to listen. You didn't participate. There's a beginning and an end to our community participatory design process. And quite frankly, this one's lasted longer than virtually every garden we've rebuilt because of the difficulty of engaging individuals like you. You didn't participate. So if you don't participate, I don't quite know how to address your comments. Now, the second.
All right, may I just say, encourage discussion here that is related and relevant to what we're considering, but I just ask everyone to be respectful of each other while we're doing that. Thank you.
So this isn't because I said it. It's because the people that came to the meeting that participate supported what we were doing, voiced what they didn't want and what they did want, what preferences they wanted, and what we can accommodate within the project.
Mr. Reynoso, hi, this is Taya. Mr. Reynoso, could you refresh for us, please? How many community meetings were conducted?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to jump in and say. And I mean, I've been in communication with Han throughout the process. So, I mean, I thank you for your feedback. We've had a total of 5 open community meetings, in addition to maybe 2 or 3 that I had specifically just with Juan and Juliet. And I think the design that we have now is a total representation of what you guys expressed you didn't want a lot of change in the garden. Juan, you just said the design looks very similar to what the garden is right now. You asked us to reuse a lot of the materials, which we are doing. One of the biggest sticking points was the water feature, which is just not, we're just not able to maintain. And so throughout all these meetings, at the last meeting, we had nine people attend that meeting. Out of the 9, 7 of them have been garden members prior to me working with this garden. Like they were from the original list of contacts that I had from the garden. So these are people who are involved in the space and not just people who I'm passing leaflets out to on the street. We did do outreach on the street because there's people that live there and we want to make sure that they know that the garden is going to be renovated. We want them to share their feedback. So I was out there passing out flyers to people in the community, but a large majority of the people that attended the meetings and shared their feedback were people who have been involved in the garden.
Thank you, Mr. Reynoso.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Mr. Salazar, did you want to say something else?
I do, and hold on. Technology baffles me, but I do. So just a couple of things. All I said is, and like I said before, I've been in many community meetings and stuff, so I understand majority. All I said is, I have no idea about this finality. If somebody says at the meeting, there was we presented, this is the people, and we had a vote, fine. I have no idea, no idea. Now, that I attended any of those meetings, I happen to work for a living, and this is not my only job. And I have emails. I said, we can participate by Zoom. I can participate by Zoom, whatever you are, like we're doing now. It couldn't be. And this meeting, the last meeting was at a hotel. And I said, look, I can participate. That was denied. So every single brick that is in that garden, I lay down, and all the rocks and everything else. So it's a whole history. So all I asked is, I do not understand the finality of it. And again, because I don't. Why is it final? Because 7 people have no idea who they are, and maybe no idea. So there was a vote as no minutes of the meeting. I asked for it. In fact, just on Friday, I sent an email to Charlie saying, Charlie, no response to my email when I asked for what happened. What was the minutes of the meeting? So anyway, this is just, I think, we have a relationship with NYRP for 20 years, but this is a different regime, and it's just, they're just going to steamroll. They're going to do what they want, and that's okay. All I wanted to know is, why is it final? I don't know. I respect if people say, look, we have 9 people, and these people have an opinion, they work, and they live here, and et cetera, that's fine. But that's all I said. I use my hands and speak, but whatever. This is not my full-time job. Thank God.
To speak
anyway.
To speak to the actual design process, which was one of the meetings prior that I had with the group prior to even beginning this, was explaining the design process that we use, which usually consists of 3 meetings. Like Gary said, we've done 5 at this one. So it's just the process that we use when renovating the gardens. At a certain point, we have to come to a consensus and move forward with the design. Because there was so many different opinions for this garden, we extended that for 2 extra meetings, all of which you've been invited to, all of which I've given you follow-ups on. I've told you what's happened at them. And you've had an opportunity to be part of the process.
I see one of our committee members, Thomas, wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just have a question. Does the garden have any consistent public hours? And is that going to change once the garden reopens in 2024?
It shouldn't. The garden has pretty consistent open hours, thanks to a lot of the community members, Juliet being one of them. And yeah, no, we hope it continues to remain pretty consistent. That's one of the things that we also hope the design helps, which is, like Gary mentioned again, increasing the membership in the space. When we only have 2 or 3 key holders, that puts all the responsibility on those people to open and close every day. Whereas if we had a larger group of community members involved, we could then rely on more people to make sure that the space is open and closed in the evening. So we're definitely hoping that it continues to remain open forever.
Great, thanks. Could you, do you know the specific hours?
I think Juliet can probably answer that better. I believe she did most of the opening and closing this past season.
It varies from season to season. Many seasons were open 7 days a week. Like prior to the pandemic, we were open 7 days a week from about during the week, 7 a.m. to about 6 p.m. And on weekends from maybe 8 a.m. to about 7 p.m. Then the pandemic was a little bit confusing and people left the neighborhood and weren't around and all that. And then this past season, we were able to open 5 days a week confirmed. And then on Thursday and Friday, they were kind of a swing days if someone was available to open and close.
Great, thanks.
So it's pretty, I mean, it's pretty public accessible.
All right, Juan, I had a question for you. Is there any specific part of this design that you particularly would like to see changed?
Well, very good. Thank you for the question. So I don't know, and that's why I think dialogue is better than just steamrolling things. I don't know whether the materials that are going to be used are the same that we recycled from a building that was demolished, and we use them, every rock, every brick, even the wood that is there. So again, the dialogue. The two things that were the main thing is that the beds, everybody, including there's a school right next to it, every year, I've been doing this for 30 years in this garden. Everybody has the idea you're going to grow vegetables, they're going to do it, and it never works. It never works. Gary mentioned, so whatever, that if it's not used, it's going to be repurposed. But the main thing was, I think the garden is unique if you see it. There's a lot of gardens, community gardens, and that look the same if you walk around, and there's a little of a formula. So this one is unique in terms of the path that it has in this big fish pond. The idea was with the school, the new school, Pratt, was to have this recycling, the water will come up and we have a pump. And so over the years, we have been asking for some improvements from NYRP, including power, so we can do this recycling so that, the fish and all that. And the neighbors, and I think, in passing, Gary mentioned, well, there's objection to the pond because the kids go in to feed the fish and all that kind of thing. There was some issue about liabilities. It's not a liability, it's been there for 20 years. So that was the big thing. So I said it, that the third design looks close to what we have, and that's good. And all I said is, in my own expressive way, that this finality is just going through the steps. And I said this in the summer, is, okay, you check a box and you had them, because the response was attacking me because I didn't participate because I have a job. And I'm here, and I expressed my objections, or we had 3 meetings, now we have 5 meetings. It's just form over substance. The garden is a beautiful garden. And if it's up to me, I'll leave it alone. But, somebody wants to spend $500,000, that's my own money too, it's taxpayer money. So initially my objection was, why don't we just renovate a little bit, but now we got to do a whole new thing so that it's in somebody's portfolio. But no.
I apologize, Taya, I have to leave again for a moment. I'm sorry.
It was just those two things. The beds and the pond, that it's got to be, I think somebody said it looks like a urinal. It's a small little thing, which is a joke. Anyway, that's it.
Thanks very much. And Mr. Reynosa, correct me if I'm wrong, but NYRP is a nonprofit, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Thanks. Just wanted to confirm that. Are there any, oh, sorry. Are there any other questions from the board, the committee, or any interested neighbors that are in attendance? I see Mr. Benacom. Hello.
Hello. So how much is the renovation and how much is private money being donated towards this? Do we have that information?
So private funding is about $100,000, and the maximum the city will contribute is $475,000.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benacom. Any other questions? Okay. This is a bit, oh, Diane Martins, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious, does the city ever set guidelines around like how much capital should be spent on a project like this, particularly when public funds are involved? And
yes,
I'm saying this from someone who sees that so many of our parks have been abandoned by the Parks Department.
The city sets a minimum for investing on private property, which this is what this is private property held in our land trust. The minimum they will consider is $500,000. And then they subtract from that administrative fees from the agency that works on it. So this project, I don't anticipate spending that full amount. That's a lot of money.
Okay, thanks so much. I think we'll close comments. I don't see any other hands. This is a bit unusual because both our chair and our vice chair are not present. So technically, actually, Mr. Huji.
No, actually, I'm back. I'm back.
We're about to pass it to the secretary. Committee Chair Zalak-Ringer, comments are closed. If you would like to entertain a motion, that's where we were.
Right. Does anyone have a motion to make concerning this presentation tonight? I would like to make a motion in support of this redesign. I thought it was showed that it was that they listened to the community. They had two designs based on those, and then came together to combine what they felt were the best of the designs. And I've heard comments here tonight that it speaks to the garden as it is now. So I would make a motion to support the redesign.
Joe.
Richard, is that a second? Thank you. Any comments, any discussion from committee members? All right, I don't see any hands raised. So we'll take a vote. All in favor of the motion? Taya, I think I see 4 hands.
Yes, we can.
Oh, 5. I see 5 hands. How about you?
Correct.
Okay.
6. I see Mr. Lastowski.
Right. All opposed?
Could you lower your hands, please?
The only committee members can vote. Okay. Sorry. All right. I don't see anyone opposing. You, Taya?
I do not.
Abstentions? 1. All right, I see 1 abstention.
Confirmed.
All right, so I think we have more than 6 people here. What is your tally?
701.
Oh, 7. Okay, I have 5. Okay, so the motion passes. This will now go forward to the full board. So thank you again. You're welcome to stay. understand.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone who came to speak on that this evening. We come now to our third presentation of the evening, which concerns Trinity Park, which is really named for a group of nuns, which is interesting. So we're here to hear more about their proposal. We have Diane Martins, Aruni Ranawera, I hope I got that close, and Betty Rexroad. Interested to hear what you have to tell us.
Okay, can everybody see our screen now?
Yes, we can see the background as well. You might want to expand.
Let me see if I can do that. If not, I ask for your forgiveness.
None needed.
You
enter full screen? There we
yeah,
go.
are we on full screen now?
That looks perfect.
Okay, there we go. Diane, I'll give it to you to start.
Hey. Hi, everyone. My name is Diane Martins. I'm a Burham Hill resident. I'm joined tonight by Betty Rexroad and Aruni Ranawera. We're all volunteers with the Bridges for People campaign. Thank you so much for letting us present. Bridges for People is a campaign that advocates, one, for more space for pedestrians and cyclists on the Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Williamsburg bridges. We also advocate for upgrades to critical bike routes to each of these bridges. Our campaign was formed and launched in 2020 during the height of the pandemic, when biking significantly increased across the East River bridges. As a result, the bridges became more crowded and more unsafe for cyclists and pedestrians. Over the past 2 years, we've been able to achieve some of our campaign goals with the support of many elected officials, the DOT and the mayor, as well as local businesses and members of the community. In September of last year, the DOT unveiled the new protected bike lane on the Brooklyn Bridge, which has dramatically increased or improved safety conditions, not just for cyclists, but also for pedestrians. And 2 months ago, the DOT completed a two-way protected bike lane on Skirmerhorn Street, which is part of a critical part of the bike route that connects central Brooklyn to both the Manhattan and the Brooklyn bridges. The next slide, please. So why does our campaign care about Trinity Park? We care about safe transit. Trinity Park marks the approach to the Manhattan Bridge, which is one of the most important bike arteries connecting Brooklyn to Manhattan. And we also care deeply about the protection of public space. We think preserving Trinity Park and improving conditions present a tremendous opportunity to expand public land use, reduce the impact of highways, and also reconnect New York City neighborhoods. So it's not just about bikes, it's about accessibility, safety, as well as public health. I'm going to hand it over to Aruni now to tell you more about Trinity Park.
Thank you, Diane. So can everyone hear me? Great. Okay, so where is Trinity Park? So Trinity Park, as you can see, is in this circle right here at the Manhattan Bridge approach, as Diane mentioned. It is right next to Farragut houses and could be a potential public space for residents of public housing to use. It also, Betty, if you could go to the next slide, used to be a beautiful entrance to the Manhattan Bridge. So as you can see, there were some two historic arches that marked the entrance. You can see some horse carriages down there and people enjoying the day, but it used to be this beautiful public space that people could access. But with the construction of the BQE and other highways and roadways nearby, that area was stripped down to what it is today, which is a park that is spliced and diced on all directions by highways and roadways. In the top left quadrant, you can see that Betty has marked a bike path on the map. So Trinity Park is also encircled by the bike path entrance to the Manhattan Bridge. That part is currently not accessible by pedestrians. We do find ways to get over there, as you'll see in some upcoming pictures. It is a beautiful tree-lined space with beautiful views of the skyline. But the accessible part, as you can see on Nassau, is a 0.68 acres of parkland. That's the only legally accessible park space that is maintained by the Parks Department. The other chunks of Trinity Park, which I think are about 6 acres worth of green space that is cut through by roadways, it's about, I believe, six acres. Is that correct, Betty?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 6 acres. So we are only getting a small fraction of that to public access, but there, as you can see from this view, there's all sorts of green spaces that are tucked away in different pockets here. On the next slide, you can see what has happened as a result of all these roadways. Cars have illegally driven off of the highway on-ramps and cut through the park to either get, to make a shortcut to the other roadways. Yes, these, as they've driven, they've made these huge notches and tracks in the beautiful grass and the trees. And they're parking underneath these trees, tucked in between here. Some of these are placarded used cars, others are members of the public. Some of them are construction workers who are working on the bridge. But regardless, they are parking on this parkland, and also because they're able to drive, people are able to drive their cars onto this land, they will haul large amounts of trash into the park and just leave it, and then leave it and abandon it. We've seen treadmills, microwaves, air conditioning units dragged onto the park by vehicles that are able to access it by these illegal roadways, and then left abandoned for months on end. We have done a community cleanup of this park through Transportation Alternatives Bridges for People to draw attention to the litter that is on the park. As you can see here, there's a microwave on the bottom right corner that we were using as a little table for our snacks and water to get us through the afternoon. We had about 18 volunteers come out to help clean up the litter. As you can see, there are some cars that were parked there as well, and we picked up the trash between and around these cars and vehicles. Betty, do you want to play the video that kind of summarizes our experience in this cleanup?
Yes, give me 1 minute.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so we gathered around, entered the park via the illegal track that cars have made. We did a little training and then had volunteers vested up with trash grabbers and trash bags. They picked up the trash. You can see here that council member Wrestler makes an appearance. He came and saw what we were up to there. He is there. And we hauled off this trash into orange bags. We did this in partnership with Partnerships for Parks, who gave us all the equipment to do this cleanup. We put it on the side of the road, as well as hauling some of this larger debris to the side of the road. Yep, so with that, that is our activism to date on the park, and drawing attention to it via a community cleanup. And I will pass it to Betty to talk a bit more about our future plans to further restore the park. I think the screen share stopped.
Hi there, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to stop Twitter, as we all hope to. In cleaning up the park, we talked about how peaceful the park was, being able to use it, and what it could offer to the public if it was accessible. Step 1, closing the park to vehicular access along the access ramps to the BQE running along Sands Avenue.
Ms. Rodriguez, I just want you're no longer sharing visuals.
Oh, hold on, sorry.
No problem, we'll just go right back in.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I just wanted to confirm which area you did the cleanup in. Is it that?
Yeah, the cleanup we did inside of that little loop inside of the bike path. So we kind of hopped that wall and was able to pick up the trash because people had been driving in through that. That track that you see is through the loop that the bike path surrounds.
Okay, could we go back to that? Could we go back to that other map? I just wanted to confirm.
Betty, yes, we can see your screen.
Yeah, this map?
Yeah, is it that sort of half circle? Is that where you did the cleanup?
Yeah, can you see
number
my
5?
Hand, the hand
clean
here?
Up in number 5? No.
So
that's where you did the cleanup?
The cleanup was this entire area that you see where you see the cars parked.
Oh, okay.
So in
and also that number 2 area?
And the number 2 area,
okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
In cleaning up the park, we talked about how peaceful the park was and what it could offer to the public if it was accessible. And we're going to outline a couple sort of steps to how to achieve that. Number 1, closing the vehicular access to Trinity Park along the access ramp along Sands, where you see that it has been rutted with car tires. On the opposite side, running to also close the access to the park from the on-ramp to the Manhattan Bridge. Number 2, restoring access to Trinity Park from the Manhattan, from the Manhattan Bridge. So you can see in plan, this marks number 2. So you have a photo of the bike path across the bridge, the commuters. The next is as you come down into Brooklyn, as you go into the teardrop that runs you down to Sands, there's currently a chain link fence that prohibits you from accessing the park. Behind that chain link fence, you can see the stainless steel bollards that have been put there for emergency use, which are barricaded. Number 3, there are 2 exit ramps from the BQE that turn onto the Manhattan Bridge. There's only one road coming from the BQE, and there's only one road that it is going to. These access ramps, because they're redundant, are filled with cars that are parking. These were photos taken this past Tuesday. This land, which was originally part of Trinity Park, by removing the inner ramp, which allows for high-speed vehicles, would allow Trinity Park to be expanded. Number 4, in doing so, the crosswalk across the vehicular access, where there is currently a stop sign and a crosswalk, would allow for safe pedestrian access from Nassau Street. And 5, being able to connect the fragmented areas of Trinity Park, unify the existing 0.68 acre park with the rest of Trinity Park, and also being able to enforce the no parking in the pedestrian zone that was created through the Vision Zero in 2019 along Nassau Street, which is currently used for parking cars. Trinity Park has the ability to give back over 4 acres of New York parkland to New Yorkers, create spaces for those crossing the bridge or getting together from opposite boroughs, provide pedestrian pathways that link together NYCHA housing, downtown Brooklyn, and the Navy Yards, improve and expand the potential of the Manhattan Bridge to pedestrians and cyclists, provide an open sky and city views that are not frequently experienced in New York City, and to be the gateway to Brooklyn. We ask for your help to restore this access to New York City Park with mature trees and open skies for New Yorkers to use. The one thing before we go to question and answers, we'd like to just explain in presenting to you today, our next step with Community Board 2 will be on January 19th with the Transportation and Public Safety Committee, followed by presentation to the General Board. We have also, as a nonprofit organization, started grant funding opportunities to enable us to enlist community engagement and make this park more meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you. This is very interesting. We heard about this park a number of years ago. My first question is, have you discussed this with the Parks Department? Or what steps have you taken with the Parks Department on this?
We've discussed it with the Parks Department. They were part of our cleanup in August. So they're aware of our interest. And Aruni, do you want to speak more directly to that?
Yes, I will add a little bit of context. Yes, after we did the cleanup, we informed Commissioner Mara's office that we did it. We sent some pictures and photographs of what we've done, but we haven't really been on the radar for capital improvements or planning or adjustments. So far, the community board has been our first step. We want to get your advice and opinions on how we should approach the Parks Department and what you would recommend. But so far, as Betty said, it's just been the cleanup that the Parks Department was informed of, but no long-term changes so far as far as we know.
Right. We've also been in contact with Councilman Ressler's office through our initial work.
I don't think we have anyone here tonight, do we, from the council member's office? And I don't think we have any representatives from the Parks Department. So having asked one question myself, I will see if there are any questions from our committee members, the Parks committee members. Do we have any questions? Not seeing I don't see anyone with a hand raised. Oh, Richard.
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate these people for taking over that area. I passed by that for 50 years, and I was always wondering what was going on there. I thought it was a beautiful piece of land. Now, what about the plaza that's right there? Is any thoughts given to that? You know, where you walk up those steps into that beautiful stone plaza. That
you mean on the pedestrian side?
Yes, on the pedestrian side, there's that beautiful stone plaza. I used to.
Yeah, no, we have thoughts about that because there's a beautiful stone pedestrian plaza. It does not have any handicapped access. Right. There is also land behind that abuts the other exit ramp. Yes, there's a lot that could be done to activate that, both in terms of expanding the green space behind it, but also being able to potentially even provide amenities in that plaza in the vault spaces that are below the bridge. Oh, we haven't taken that on really yet.
Yeah. No,
so, Richard, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did you?
Yeah, no, again, I want to congratulate you for your seeing the space and seeing that it could be used in a more creative way. And it's just wonderful. So thank you.
So I have a question. If you're not on a bicycle, how would you access the park? You're by foot. Do you have to cross any highways?
No, you would access it through Nassau Street, which is where the Vision Zero pedestrian zone has been set up, and where there is a stop sign to cross at the where the roadway from where the vehicular access from the BQE approaches the Manhattan Bridge.
And all right. So I see we do have some questions from members of the public. Juan, I saw your hand first. You're still muted. Tell you what, we're going to come back to you. I see Juliet has a question.
Got it. I got it. I'm here.
Oh, okay. All right, fine.
Okay.
I'm going to second Richard's sentiment, and it's a wonderful presentation and a wonderful idea, and support to 100%. Coincidentally, this park is just behind the whatever happened just before the bridge park. You can see it. But I have a couple of questions. In my mind, and I lived there for a long time, Trinity Park was just a little triangle, if you will, on Nassau Street. Is the whole thing called Trinity Park officially?
Yes, it is. It's a 6-acre park.
Now, the next question is it a city property, or is it an amalgam of state property and federal property because of the highway? Or is it just New York City property to make it easier?
I'm not sure who else has ownership for it, but it is a New York City park.
Yeah,
with the Parks Department.
I think in prior discussions that it's a bit of a complex, because when they do the highway, they take the highway and a little bit beyond that. But and also and just thinking, by the way, we have an organization, Juliet is part of it, and Bill is part of it. It's called Bridge Plaza Association. We've been around for a long time, and we did the rezoning of a lot of our neighborhood there, and we did the beautiful park that is now going to be destroyed, but that's another topic. So what I'm thinking is that the ramp that comes from the BQE onto the Manhattan Bridge, that might be a tall order to close, because access. But maybe there's a
no, we're not asking to close the exit ramp from the BQE to the Manhattan Bridge, but there are two roads that are next to each other.
Yeah, but those
and we're asking to close one of them because it's redundant and because people travel very fast on that road and don't have visibility.
Well, I think you've done the right thing to go to the transportation committee, because they're the ones who would handle the issue about closing any road access.
So my main concern is, and if it is Old City, I hope it is. And in fact, in my ignorance, that I thought Trinity Park was but that small little triangle. In fact, we just had a neighborhood get together this summer at that park, because it's a park, and that's why part of our design of the other park is it's just for people to go there, sit, look at the fish, and sit down, because this is a park that you can sit, play games and stuff in the playground down there. But I support you 100%. You can count on me, and we're next to you, and it's wonderful, and that should really be a nice park. Thank you.
Okay, Juliet, you had something?
Juan had mentioned part of one of my questions, because I grew up and still live just down the block from the smaller Trinity Park, and I was always under the impression that was the park, and the other part was part of the highway department. And so growing up, we never called that part of the park, and it was never used as a park. It was always just over there. The situation, as you have pointed out, has gotten increasingly horrible, with people just deciding to park wherever they want to park. And when they're coming in and out of the parking spots, it's become, I think, kind of a hazard to pedestrians and bicyclists as well. And there are more children in the area. So I think that is a good thing if that parking situation can be eliminated, and then followed by more public use of the space. So definitely reach out to me, and I could send out emails to people who are interested in helping out, see what's going on for future things. This is the first I've I've heard of your group and the project. So I wish you all the best, and you could count on us for support to clean things up one way or the other.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, oh, I'm sorry. Is it Mr. Vinicombe, William? You have to unmute.
Yes, hi. So I did, I've had a number of walkthroughs in this area with the past council people and also the community board. So there's been some history here of trying to bring some attention to it, because a lot of people didn't realize it is all New York City parkland, and it is Trinity Park. It's named after the Trinity sisters that were nuns at the Dr. White Community Center. They built that. Actually, I was living in a neighborhood. I was young, and it was built around 1965. It's no longer there, Dr. White Community Center. But those nuns supported the Farragut houses. They gave education to children after school, and they really had a major impact on people's lives. So it's a beautiful situation that's a dedication to those individuals, because they have a long history. We're talking back to the mid 60s, and they had a major effect on many young people. And thank God we have something to recognize them in. And the fact is that it's been taken over by parked cars, and other Steve Levin tried to help on it. The community board trying to help on it. We all know about the downtown parking situation, so it's great that that's being recognized. The other great thing about it is that it's a place where people can sit and picnic. We have Dumbo, we have Brooklyn Bridge Park, but for the Bridge Plaza community and also for the Farragut community, which is a very large population, it's a wonderful place to just sit and there's trees, there's air. You could see some of the other parks that are close to the Farragut houses are just major asphalt. So I applaud everything you're doing. I've been looking at this spot I've had walking tours with the community board, council people. I've had walking tours with the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership, just trying to bring some attention to it. So it's really great that something's happening with here. And whatever support you need from me or anybody else in our community, I'm sure you're going to get it. So thank you for focusing on this.
Thank you all, and we look forward to reaching out to you. I'm just going to try to put here in the link my complete tech info, but I'll put the link to Bridges for People.
Thank you.
Eileen, did you want to say something?
Yes. Hi, Billy. Hi, Juliet. Hi, Juan. I was raised right across the street, 180 Nassau. It's a duplex building, and I remember when the park first opened up. And I went to Dr. White Community Center, and it was ran by the Catholic nuns. And it was an intergenerational center that catered to everybody in the neighborhood, even the projects, NYRP housing. And I took pictures there when I was younger with the nun, when it first opened up. But I believe, I was told that the pictures possibly might be at Catholic charities, but I was not able to ever get, but I'm saying, Billy, I'm listening to what you're saying. And I agree 100%. I wish, that the park, it sort of was neglected. Like a lot of people never knew about it, never used it. So I'm just, hoping that, more people become aware of it and what have you. But it just brings back a lot of memories. I said, oh, wow, when I heard about this meeting. But I wish you guys luck, and I hope, you're able to take care of the park, with the benches, the way it is and what have you. Good luck to you.
Now, as I recall, you said this cleanup project was done with Partnership for Parks?
Yes,
right?
this took place in August.
Right. So I think you're doing all the right things. Partnership for Parks is a great organization, and I'm sure it could give you some additional assistance. And I think, then you have to deal with the Parks Department. It is their park. So I think, it's my understanding that they would have to make a proposal. Have to get their, they're the ones who would have to do the work and get it done. So, and as I mentioned earlier, the transportation committee is really about the comings and goings. So does anyone else, Juliet? Oh, all right, Juliet and Juan, very quickly, so we could wrap this up.
Many years ago, many years ago, we submitted renderings. We had a graphic designer in the neighborhood who designed some renderings on how the area could look a little bit better. And we submitted those for, this is so many years ago, Borough President Markowitz, the council person at the time, Downtown Bid, and a few other places, and nothing ever came of it. So I mean, I could dig those up from the files if you were interested in some of the work that we did way back that didn't amount to anything, but we definitely have an interest still. So.
Absolutely have that historical context, and also for us to be able to engage with every community so that all of us can speak to what we need to do as a community to make this public park public.
Great, thank you.
All right, is there anyone who hasn't spoken before I call on one again who wants to say something?
Yes, just a final brief.
Okay, thank you.
Just a final brief piece of information for, you probably know this, but the vast majority of those cars, and it's a known thing, are placard cards, primarily 911 cops. There's been a problem in downtown Brooklyn since forever. So that may make it easier or harder, but so you have that context that the cars that park, they back up the ramp and park in there. They're primarily, and they walk from the 9/11 building, which is just down the street. So maybe that makes it easier if, there's cooperation with the other agency, et cetera, just so you know.
All right, William, you want the last word?
I just want to say hello to Eileen. It's great to see you, Eileen. We've known each other a long time.
I'm sorry. Hi, Billy. How you doing? I'm so sorry.
Hey, sweetheart.
And I even have one story. Remember being with the nuns and how we used to go across the street and we used to pretend we were camping, right? And we used to make s'mores and what have you. Oh, wow, I just can't get over it.
It's so nice that the park is named after them.
Yes, yes, it is. Wow.
I just had to say hello, Eileen. Thank you.
Well, say hello.
Okay. All right. I have the date marked down, January 19th, Transportation Committee. If any of our committee members want to attend that and hear more about this and maybe give some input, I'll try my best to be there. And we look forward to hearing more about this.
Thank you. And I was going to say, and if you join that committee meeting, you can also help us with your community support.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dollar-Gregor?
Yes.
This committee wish to entertain a motion?
It's my understanding that this is kind of early to you don't have a definite plan or anything of that sort to vote on. So I think if they were to come back,
support.
I think this is kind of early. In my mind, this was an informational meeting. I think so. So again, thank you, and you're welcome to stay. And if you need to understand it. All right, we're going to jump now to other committee business. Does anyone on the committee have any other business they want to raise this evening? All right, then we're in community forum. Anyone from the public anyone who's not on the committee wants to raise an issue? All right. Seeing nothing there, I think the next item on the schedule is adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Sure. And Carolyn, thank you. I assume there are no objections. Thank you to everybody, to all the presenters and all the community members for being here and being so engaged tonight. And we look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good holiday.
Yes. Thank you for saying that, Richard. I hope everyone has a healthy and happy
holidays
and fulfilling holiday.
Happy holiday.